Anybody home? Man, it is nice to have a few minutes to relax before everyone gets home. It's a long day at work, at least it felt like one. You know how it can be. But I try to see the big picture. You got to remind yourself why you do it. I mean, what's really important. That's not to say the job isn't important. After all, the job makes everything else possible. And I'm not saying you got to put up with a lot of stuff just because it's your job. You just got to be realistic. We have homes and families. We think about bills that we have to pay, our careers, problems that we're having both on and off the job. And because these things are important to us, we have to be careful. Careful because we have choices to make, sometimes tough choices. I mean, look at this. Now there's an important decision. Our company, for example, we've chosen to stay union-free. And like a lot of things, every once in a while you got to step back and remind yourself why. Believe me, it's not always clear. You may read something like this, and there are people out there who make unions sound like they have solutions to offer to all your problems. But they may really be only trying to use you to solve problems of their own. It's a tough subject. It's hard to know what to think when you've never been in a union yourself. But then again, you don't want to join up just because someone tells you to. How much do you really know about unions? And how much of it is based on facts? A lot of us grew up with unions around, and it wasn't until I was older till I realized what was going on. The tough talk, the distrust, the hard times. When I started working myself, I found out not everyone had to go through all that stuff. I tell you what, whenever someone I know brings up unions, I ask them, how much of the American workforce do you think is union? I get answers like 60% or 50%. Sound reasonable? Unions are big and powerful, right? People think that every trucker is a teamster, only steel workers make steel, or every part on an American car is union made. It's just not true. Even at their biggest back in the 1950s, it was never even 40% of workers that were in unions. But people are still surprised when I tell them that I read that today, unions represent only around 1 out of 10 Americans in the private sector workforce. That means about 9 out of 10 are union-free. 9 out of 10. People always wonder, where did they get the idea that unions were big and powerful? When the fact is, unions have been steadily shrinking as a percentage of the workforce for the last 50 years. They can't believe it. So I ask, what do you think a union is anyway? Well, they just get that look on their faces that says, I thought I knew, but now that I think about it. Well, a union is an organization that provides services to working people. What services? Well, to put it in very basic terms, working people pay a union to do all their talking for them about wages, benefits, and working conditions. Now, why would anyone want that? I guess many years ago, the unions had a clear purpose, but I'm talking way back, like before any of us were born. Today, you don't see children working in coal mines and sweatshops. Today, we got minimum wage, OSHA, a ton of safety regulations, equal employment opportunity, and we've got laws that do just about everything that unions used to do. That could be why fewer and fewer employees feel that they need or want unions anymore. Even when unions get an election these days, they lose about 40% of the time. Unions just don't have that strong a purpose anymore. What do you think of when you think of unions? A brotherhood of workers, standing firm, arm in arm, fighting for justice and a fair share? Speeches, rallies, big barbecues, and tough talk? That's the myth, all right. But there's always a bottom line. And the bottom line with unions is that they cost money. They cost you money, they cost the company money, they cost the customers money. And losing all those members is a big reason why you might find yourself the target of a union drive. They need new sources of dues income. They're fighting to survive. You see, somewhere along the way, unions turned from being a brotherhood of workers into being a big business. And that business has turned from representing workers to selling memberships to unsuspecting employees. A union is a sales organization, and their job is selling union memberships and the dues, fees, and assessments that come with them. So if someone gets you to sign a union authorization card, they just made a sale. And if you sign on the dotted line, you may be signing away some of your most important rights, including the right to speak for yourself, so be careful. Being union-free also means being dues-free. We can use our ideas and our hard work to help ourselves, not to solve the financial problems of some union. But I still hear people say, but a union means better pay, it means better benefits. We'll tell management what to do. And let's think about this for a minute, because that's not really the way it works. A union can't tell management to do anything. It all has to be negotiated. The union sits down with its lawyers, management sits down with their lawyers, the union asks for the things it promised to employees, and the company says yes, no, maybe. And believe me, it's those maybes you have to worry about. I'll give you this if you give me that. That's what bargaining is all about. Sometimes nothing changes, and sometimes employees do get more. But sometimes, and this is the part a union won't tell you, sometimes employees wind up with less than they started with. Raises, benefits, job security. Unions don't give you these things, and they're certainly not there for the asking. You earn them by satisfying the customer. All the money that goes to pay your wages and benefits, the entire reason your job exists in the first place, it all comes from the customers, not the union. But to a union, all the good things you've earned and come to depend on could become nothing more than bargaining chips. Even the way we feel about each other could change because of what goes on at a union bargaining table. Now, I think we'd all agree that most of us try to get along pretty well. I mean, nobody's perfect, but for the most part, you make friends, you help each other out. It makes things easier. But there's just something about having a union. It's hard to explain. Sometimes you got to see it to believe it. With the union, it's us against them. It's the way unions think. You're looking out for the enemy. Every day you're fighting a war. And if you ever get called out on a strike, well, most people, they're friends now, but if they were to disagree over a strike, look out. There's something about going without a paycheck that puts people on edge. That's right, economic strikers don't get a paycheck from the company, not a penny. But you'll still have to pay your mortgage or rent, your car note, food bills, utilities, and everything else needed to care for your family. Money problems, hard feelings, violence, losing customers, who needs it? The truth is that nobody here, employees or management, wants a strike. But the only sure way to avoid a union strike is to avoid the union. We've talked a lot about unions because it's important. It's the right choice we've made, being union-free. But sometimes you just got to remind yourself why you made that choice in the first place. You've got a lot on your mind besides the work you do at the company. But the choices you make at work can affect you all the way around. Hi! Don't let a union take your eye off what's really important.